Did you know the last native king of Mercia simply vanishes from history? No grand battle, no dramatic death. He just disappears. This is a strange fate for a ruler of what was once England's most powerful kingdom. Mercia's story is full of such gaps, sudden, unexplained endings that leave us wondering what really happened. The disappearance of a king is a political earthquake, destabilizing the kingdom and creating a power vacuum. For Mercia, vanishing rulers became a recurring problem, hinting at internal strife and precarious power. These weren't just forgotten names. Their sudden absence had real consequences. Understanding these stories is key to understanding Mercia's decline and England's unification. We often focus on what we know, battles, laws, chronicles, but the silences in history can be just as telling. The lack of a record for a king's death is significant. It suggests chaos, shame, or deliberate erasure. These missing final acts are clues, pointing to a turbulent and violent political landscape. In this video, we'll explore these mysteries, examining the lives and disappearances of Mercian kings. We'll look at what the sources tell us, and more importantly, what they leave out. By piecing together these ghostly figures, we get a more nuanced picture of Anglo-Saxon England. It's a world far more complex than simple timelines suggest. Here, a king could rule a vast territory one day and be gone the next, leaving only questions and a kingdom on the brink. The silence around these vanished kings is not an accident. It's a window into the uncertainty and danger of early medieval power. Let's step into the shadows and see what we can uncover. To understand these disappearances, we need to understand Mercia itself. For centuries, Mercia was the dominant force in England, its kings ruling from the Midlands, the heart of the Anglo-Saxon world. Mercian kings controlled vital trade routes, commanded vast resources, and held the title of Bretwalda, or Britain ruler. Their power was immense, confirmed by treasures like the Staffordshire hoard. But Mercia was a patchwork of territories, held together by the personal authority of its king. If the king was weak or the succession disputed, the kingdom could quickly unravel. Ambitious nobles and rival kingdoms waited for any sign of weakness. This inherent instability is the backdrop for the mysterious disappearances of its kings. When a Mercian king vanished, it wasn't just a personal tragedy, it was a national crisis. The kingdom's strength depended on the king's grip on power. Without it, everything was at risk. Mercia's story is one of both glory and fragility, where the fate of a nation could hinge on the fate of a single ruler. And when that ruler disappeared, the consequences were felt far beyond the royal court. Let's begin with Ethelbald, one of Mercia's greatest kings. After years in exile, he seized the throne in 716 AD and ruled for over 4 decades, dominating southern England. Ethelbald was a formidable leader, military commander, shrewd politician, and reformer. His reign brought stability and prosperity, but it ended in sudden mystery. The Anglo-Saxon Chronicle simply states he was slain at Seckington. A letter from St. Boniface claims he was murdered by his own bodyguards. No explanation is given, no battle, no uprising, just a king killed in his sleep. Why did his guards turn on him? Was it a personal betrayal, a political conspiracy, or something else? The silence in the records is telling. Perhaps a cover-up, perhaps a coup that erased its own origins. Ethelbald's death wasn't just the end of a king, it was a shock to the kingdom's core. The most powerful man in Britain was gone overnight, and the story of his end remains a mystery. This is the first of Mercia's vanished kings, a ruler whose shadowy fate set the stage for chaos. In Mercia, even the mightiest could fall without warning, leaving only questions behind. The silence around Ethelbald's end is a clue to the dangers lurking at the heart of power. After Ethelbald's assassination, a shadowy figure named Beornred briefly took the throne. The records say he ruled for a little while and unhappily before being put to flight by Offa. Who was Beornred? The chronicles don't say. He appears, seizes power, and vanishes just as quickly. Some speculate he was behind Ethelbald's murder, but his reign was short and unsupported. Did he flee to another kingdom, die in obscurity, or was he erased to avoid making him a martyr? History is silent. Beornred is a ghost in the narrative, a failed usurper whose story is a void. His fleeting rule shows the brutal reality of Anglo-Saxon politics. Power was seized by force, and losers were erased. Beornred's disappearance is a warning. Without support, even a king can be forgotten. In Mercia, legitimacy was everything, and Beornred's lack of it doomed him to oblivion. Offa, who ousted Beornred, became Mercia's most powerful king. He ruled from 757 to 796 AD, building Offa's Dyke, reforming currency, and dominating England. Offa wanted to avoid a succession crisis, so he had his son Ecgfrith crowned co-king, an unprecedented move. But when Offa died, Ecgfrith's reign lasted just 141 days before he too died mysteriously. Some chroniclers claimed his early death was divine punishment for Offa's ruthless actions. Offa's plan to secure his dynasty failed spectacularly. With Ecgfrith's death, Offa's direct line ended. The power vacuum Offa tried to prevent became reality, plunging Mercia into instability. Was Ecgfrith sickly, assassinated, or simply unlucky? We don't know. The records are silent. The brief, mysterious reign of Ecgfrith is another Mercian enigma. Offa's legacy was immense, but his failure to secure the succession doomed his kingdom. The stage was set for decline, as Mercia's greatest king left behind only uncertainty. In Mercia, even the best-laid plans could unravel in an instant. The silence around Ecgfrith's death is another piece of the puzzle. So what happened to these lost kings? Historians have theories, but few answers. Political assassination was common. Removing a king was the fastest way to change power. Ethelbald's murder by his own guards suggests an inside job, perhaps orchestrated by rivals like Beornred. Exile was another fate. Defeated kings might flee, seeking support in rival courts or disappearing into obscurity. Some vanished into monasteries, trading crowns for cloisters. But many were simply erased from history by their successors. Chronicles written to legitimize new rulers ignored failed usurpers. Sometimes the truth was mundane, sudden illness or natural death, unremarkable and unrecorded. The silence in the records could mean conspiracy, shame, or just the ordinary tragedy of life and death. In the end, history is written by the victors, and the losers often vanish without a trace. The fate of Mercia's lost kings is a blend of violence, politics, and the limits of memory. Their stories remind us how much of the past is hidden in the shadows. The disappearance of a king sent shockwaves through Mercia. Succession crises erupted, with rival claimants and noble factions vying for power. Civil war weakened the kingdom, wasting resources and dividing loyalties. Neighboring kingdoms seized the chance to break free or challenge Mercian authority. Each crisis left Mercia weaker, more fragmented, and less able to project power. The constant instability corroded the kingdom's institutions. Nobility, army, and church all suffered. Over time, the legitimacy of the royal line eroded. After Offa's son died, the throne passed to distant relatives, breaking the old dynasty. This made Mercia vulnerable to both internal and external threats. The cycle of vanishing kings and instability hollowed out the kingdom from within. Mercia's decline was slow, but each disappearance brought it closer to collapse. While Mercia struggled with instability, Wessex grew stronger. The West Saxon royal house was stable, allowing reforms and expansion. In 825 AD, the Battle of Elundun marked the end of Mercian supremacy. Egbert of Wessex crushed Mercia's army. The balance of power shifted south, and smaller kingdoms submitted to Wessex. The last independent Mercian king, Ceolwulf II, was installed by Vikings and soon vanished from the record. His quiet exit marked the end of Mercia as an independent kingdom. Its lands were absorbed by Alfred the Great, and Mercia's story became a lesson in political fragility. Internal division and dynastic chaos, not invasion, brought down Mercia. The ghosts of its vanished kings are symptoms of a fatal weakness. Their silent ends were not just personal tragedies, they signaled the end of a great power. Mercia's fall was a slow unraveling, not a single catastrophe. The rise of Wessex was built on the ruins left by Mercia's lost kings. The stories of Mercia's lost kings remind us how fragile our knowledge of the past is. History isn't a neat narrative, it's a mosaic with missing pieces and silences. Chronicles are biased and incomplete. Sometimes a coin or a buried treasure tells us more. Studying this period is detective work, piecing together clues from scant evidence. We can propose theories, but some questions may never be answered. This uncertainty is part of history's appeal. It invites us to think critically and imagine the human dramas behind the gaps. The vanished kings of Mercia force us to confront the limits of our knowledge. Their stories are a testament to the painstaking work of historians and archaeologists. Exploring these mysteries helps us understand not just what happened, but what has been lost. If you've enjoyed this journey into the shadows of the past, join us as we uncover more of history's lost stories.